So we did make it to Croatia. That was the only country on our original list, and the rest of our travels have been driven 100% by which countries will let us in. And that list has been getting shorter and shorter. Welcome back. If you're new around here, I'm Gillian.
And I'm Stephanie. We retired early to travel full time.
We did our last Q&A 5 months ago in Greece. Since then, we've been in Croatia, Turkey, and most recently in Malta. But obviously, we are not in Malta anymore.
No.
Which brings us to our first question in our Q&A from B Costa Blanca on Instagram. It's not easy to travel now, even within one country. Where are you going to next?
Surprise! We're in Canada! That's right, we've come back to our home country to spend time with family. We're actually in our hometown of Toronto right now, and even back in our old neighborhood in the West End. So we're going to be tackling your questions as we take our morning dog walk. And to come back to that first question, it wasn't easy to get here from Malta. We had to do COVID tests. We took 3 separate flights. We narrowly dodged Canada's new mandatory hotel quarantine. And then we also had to do a 2-week self-isolation. But it was totally worth it to spend this time with our family.
Before we get into the next question, we just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to our videos and for sharing your stories and helping build this awesome little community. This time last year, we had less than 200 subscribers, and now there are thousands of you tuning in to follow along for adventures. So if you're not subscribed already, don't be shy. You can click that subscribe button. It really does make a difference for our channel.
On to the Q&A. Many of you are wondering about the big hot topic right now, which is traveling during COVID. From Lars on YouTube, I have the impression that you so far focused on the Mediterranean region. Is this in line with what you had originally planned?
Not really.
Not at all.
Back in February 2020, we were in Italy. We had planned to take a ferry to Croatia and slowly make our way across Eastern Europe by train. This is a part of Europe that we've never been to before, and we were really excited to explore it.
In fact, one of my New Year's resolutions for 2020 was to see 12 new countries. Obviously, that didn't work out.
So we did make it to Croatia. That was the only country on our original list, and the rest of our travels have been driven 100% by which countries will let us in. So that brings us to Hashora's question from Instagram. Would you still recommend slow travel overseas during COVID lockdowns? Do you feel like you're being deprived of really experiencing a place?
So if you are someone who's looking to take a 2-week vacation, this is definitely not the time to travel. Getting in and out of countries is really complicated right now, and the regulations just keep changing. So you never know when the next flight will be canceled or a country will suddenly close its borders.
But if you're a nomad like us with no permanent home anywhere in the world, then yes, a life of travel is still possible, with caveats. You need to be really flexible about where you're going and when. You need to keep an eye on the news for the latest developments, and also be prepared to spend a lot on COVID tests.
A lot.
In fact, we'd love to hear from you guys. Who's currently planning to travel in 2021, and where are you headed?
So part 2 of the question, do we feel like we're missing out on experiencing a place during the lockdowns? So in our last 7 months of travel, there are only 2 destinations where we felt impacted in any major way. So first off, as you guys remember, we went to Zagreb in December to experience the Christmas markets. However, Croatia just went into national lockdown that week and all the markets were closed. Then we went to Istanbul right afterwards, and one of our big fantasies was to enjoy a lovely Turkish breakfast sitting on the patios. But Turkey had also just declared a national lockdown days before we bought our tickets, and the restaurants were doing takeaway only.
So all in all, these were minor inconveniences. In fact, we've been able to enjoy so many special experiences over these past 7 months, which brings us to our next question from Vernsky on Instagram. During your 7 months of travel during COVID, what's the best and the worst experiences you've encountered so far?
Our best experiences, we've just had so many of these. We explored the Acropolis in Athens with almost no one else around. We got to watch the sunset over ancient monasteries in Meteora, which is in northern Greece. We had the entire wall walk in Dubrovnik all to ourselves, and we toured around a basically empty Dolmabahce Palace in Istanbul.
I think you'll probably notice a theme here. We had these totally unique, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to experience bucket list sites with hardly anyone around. All those places we just mentioned are normally jam-packed, shoulder to shoulder with other tourists.
That said, there have been some challenges as well, mostly pertaining to travel planning. So our very worst experience was our most recent, which was trying to get from Malta to Canada on short notice. The only route still running had multiple connections, Plus our flights kept getting canceled. In the meantime, all the Canadian news headlines were about mandatory hotel quarantines that were supposed to cost travelers like $2,000. But we finally did make it here. It literally took days of phone calls with Air Canada to make it happen.
Our next question is from our friends Tim and Amy from Go With Less. And if you're not subscribed to their channel, you should definitely head over there and check it out. What do you look for in a rental in the post-COVID world that wasn't on your radar beforehand? Now, we have a very long list of must-haves for an Airbnb, which we talked about in a recent video. But the number one thing that we look for now is a good cancellation policy, because we never know when a flight might be canceled and our whole trip needs to be changed.
So we used to always book 28 days or more in our Airbnbs, and that lets us tap into the long stay discount. However, there's no flexibility when you book 28 days. You basically can't cancel those stays without a massive financial penalty.
So now we book stays of 27 nights, and then we negotiate with the host for a long stay discount. So this way we get a better cancellation policy, and it just takes a little more back and forth with the host. Next up from Jessie C on YouTube, how are you going to be vaccinated? Great question, and we would love to be vaccinated as soon as it becomes available to us. So we'll wait our turn and get the jab whenever the timing is right.
On to a totally different topic, money. So this question is from Fred W. by email. After 1 year of full-time slow travel, do you still feel that you're on track financially? So great question, and the answer is yes. We are still very much on track financially. As you all know, we retired early from our corporate jobs in 2019, and we've been living off the returns of our investments ever since. So I would say that we were very conservative in our financial planning. We made sure that all the risk management pieces were in place. We are living on less than 3% of our net worth. We have a year of cash as buffer, and of course we have an emergency fund.
But like all of you, we never could have predicted just how many ups and downs we'd experience in this first year of retirement. We've weathered a pandemic, extra emergency spending, global lockdowns, a market crash, and recovery all in 1 year. And somehow we've stayed within our budget, and our net worth has actually grown. Which brings us to this question from JD Prescott on Instagram. Did you always know that your FI plan would work?
Yes, we were always very confident that our financial plan would work, and we really had to be. So before we retired, we had great jobs, we had great salaries, we were in a great country, we were living in Singapore, we really loved discovering Asia. So we had to be really sure our plan would work before we just gave it all up, our job, our home, all our security.
And we were sure. We had looked at the numbers every which way, and we purposely decided to live on less than we could afford in order to have some additional buffer.
A related question from Edwina W on YouTube. Could you share your monthly/yearly budget and whether it matches your investment withdrawal rate? So we do share a selection of our monthly costs in our cost of living series that you guys see every month. For these videos, we focus on the expenses that most people would have when they're traveling. So that would be accommodations, food, entertainment, transportation. For all of these, we seem to be spending about $2,500 US each month.
Of course, there are a number of costs that we don't share in these videos because they're specific to us and our personal needs. So those expenses include our international transportation, our personal expenses like clothing and technology, any gifts or donations that we give, and any costs related to flying around the world with our two adorable dogs. And yes, the total for all our spending is comfortably within our withdrawal rate.
Next is from Nozilla on YouTube. What adjustments would you have made to enjoy the journey as well as the destination? So this question is about something that we are really bad at doing. We're very goal-oriented, action-oriented people. So once we knew about the concept of financial independence, our entire lives were focused on achieving that goal.
The way we did things was that we saved all the freedom for our post-financial independence life. We worked, and saved. Then we retired and finally had the chance to enjoy our freedom. Our approach was exhausting.
That's right. So don't be like us. If you're 5 or 10 years away from retiring, maybe don't be so focused on that one single goal that it becomes the most important thing in your life. Instead, think about the life that you want once you've achieved financial independence, and then start bringing some of those elements into your life today. Maybe take a sabbatical or a mini retirement along the way, 2 things that we did not do. So the journey becomes as enjoyable as the destination.
We had quite a few questions about our dogs. How complicated has it been to travel with your pets? How is traveling that much with dogs? And I would like to hear more about your dog.
We love traveling with our dogs, but honestly, it's pretty complicated. We need to make sure that we have all the right paperwork every single time we enter a new country. We have to find a pet-friendly Airbnb, and not every airline will take pets in cabin, and certainly not the budget airlines. So we often end up paying more for our tickets, and then of course, we still have to pay for our dogs' tickets as well.
So with all this to deal with, is it worth it to bring them along? Absolutely.
That's right.
We love having them with us. They make every place feel like home, and it's always so great to see them on the hiking trails, whether it's in Turkey or Malta or wherever we happen to be.
Moving on to Nomad life, your girl in Italy on Instagram asked, what about the slow travel experience gets old for you? So we love our slow travel lifestyle, but honestly, the constant planning gets a little tiring. When you live in one place, you get to choose your home, and then you stay there for years and years. But with our lifestyle, we need to find an apartment every month or two. It's our choice, but it means literally combing through hundreds of listings each month, negotiating with dozens of Airbnb hosts, trying to understand neighborhoods. It feels like planning becomes our full-time job.
But we actually love the experience of being in new places every month, and we still feel like we're really early in our journey. So it might be a little work to figure out our plans, but that's part of the fun of it too. And from John M. by email, for people who have never slow traveled, compare it to the normal 10-day vacations that most of us take. What we love about slow travel is the opportunity to get to know a place slowly. There's no time pressure, no need to take expensive tours to try and see it all in one afternoon. Our previous experience with 2-week vacations is that you cram so many things in that you're just exhausted by the end.
And then suddenly it's Monday and you're back at work answering emails, and it's as if you never even had a vacation at all. That said, there are a few things that I miss from when we used to take vacations. So we used to love just grabbing a backpack and then heading off for a week of in-to-in hiking, something like that. In fact, this is exactly the type of experience that we really wanted to have once we retired. But the logistics have become a lot more complicated. So you guys have seen our luggage. You know that we're not traveling light anymore. We actually have our whole household with us, including these 2 lovely dogs. So it's really not that easy to organize those types of experiences these days, but we're working on it.
And a question from Neil on Instagram. How long do you think you'll still be on the road for?
So don't get us wrong, we are still wanting to travel and planning to travel for the next few years. Yes, COVID has made it a lot harder. It's been really difficult to get in and out of destinations these days, but we don't plan to stop traveling anytime soon. So if you like this Q&A and you're still looking for more, you can check out our last Q&A by clicking on the link right here.